and we are being recorded. That's good. Yeah, so pop any questions or messages in the chat. I can try and take a look as they're being done, but equally we'll have a little section at the end where we can answer any questions that you might have, either about things that I've chatted through this evening, or kind of anything else kind of marketing related that you'd like to get off your chest or ask anyone about. So yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I guess just as a little introduction. So I'm Phil. I'll kind of introduce myself a little bit more in a sec. So I work for a digital marketing agency called Liberty. We are working alongside a kind of a friendly partner agency that we also know called Orchard, in kind of working on this project with the RFU. Yeah, I'll chat about me in a bit more detail in a sec. But yeah, that's kind of who I am and what I'm here for. As a little kind of syllabus of what we'll be chatting through in the next hour or so, I'll kind of go through and introduce myself as well. It'd be good to kind of get to know a little bit more about you as well. Then we'll kind of talk about the strategy side of things. So how to kind of set your marketing strategy, the sorts of things that you kind of that we would say you would kind of need to be thinking about, the kind of really switched on clubs are thinking about. Hopefully just some kind of questions to kind of get your brain whirring, and to kind of go away with this with a few kind of questions to ask various people or something like that. I think that'll be a good thing to do after this. Also kind of quite a large part of what we've been doing with rugby clubs is the social media side of things. So yeah, we'll have a nice section around your social channels and the things you can do and ideas that you can have around that. So yeah, so while that does have a kind of social focus, like that, there's still elements that can kind of be used kind of across your rugby club as well. We'll also kind of drip through kind of potentially other channels as well that can be used throughout the time with your rugby clubs. And like I say, we'll have a little Q&A section at the end for anyone who wants to ask any specific questions. But yeah, please ask anything if something pops into your head straight away. And this ridiculous bandage thing on my head, it's a very dramatic bandage. I apologize, I look a bit ridiculous. The wound is absolutely tiny. I feel like a bit of a fraud wearing something this big, but there you go. So yeah, just a way to kind of introduce myself. At the start, my name is Phil. So like I said, I work for a digital marketing agency called Liberty. We're based in Cardiff. I live in the West Country of England, though. But yeah, we've been working alongside the RFU for nearly a year now, coming up to a year, to work with clubs across the rugby spectrum, across the pyramid, helping them with their marketing, with their digital marketing, with their social media, that sort of thing. My experience is all kind of in kind of content and creative and that sort of thing. I also do a lot of the kind of training and consultancy at my agency as well. So yeah, that's me in a kind of nutshell. And like I say, we've been kind of working with the RFU with kind of two core pillars that we're really concentrating on with clubs, whether that's in the resources that we've created, which I'll chat through in a sec, but also, yeah, in the one-to-one work that we're doing too. Yeah, one of those is kind of helping you communicate effectively with your fans, with your members, with your stakeholders, whether it's volunteers, whether it's players, whoever it is that you want to be speaking to, doing that as well as you possibly can. And then also helping you coordinate your social media. So there are some clubs, and we'll go through this in a sec, that everything's just being run by one person. There are some where there's groups of volunteers. There might even be some of you who are lucky enough to pay someone to do it. I appreciate that is quite a substantial minority, though. But yeah, so it's all about kind of coordinating your social media and kind of keeping control of it while making sure you're kind of what you're creating is the good stuff. And one of the things that we've been creating as part of the RFU project are some marketing resources. These are available on the RFU website. I appreciate it can be quite a tricky customer to deal with sometimes. So probably the best way to find these resources is literally just to Google RFU marketing resources. That will take it right there. As you can see, my nice big arrow there pointing to that one. Basically on that page, you'll find a number of different resources that we created to help rugby clubs with their digital marketing and their marketing. So whether that's guides to using social media, to email marketing, anything to do with your website and kind of using your website as best as you can, how to create ads on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok to kind of reach new people. Lots of stuff that our friends at Orchard did around kind of branding and sponsorship and driving match day revenue. Yeah, all of that's on there too as well. So there's a lot to get your teeth into. So I do encourage you to do that if you have the time. But that's enough about me and this project and that sort of thing. Got a few kind of polls that will be kind of popping up tonight. And the first of one is this. When it comes to kind of marketing your club, are you kind of are you a day-to-day doer? Are you getting your hands dirty like Owen Farrell? We're not suspended. Are you kind of more of a strategic lead? So kind of doing little things, looking over things, but kind of letting a lot of people do things sometimes as well? Or are you more of an overseer, kind of a manager type, a Steve Borthwick type, kind of seeing what's going on? Or are you doing everything yourself? Like when it comes to the marketing of your club, what's your kind of specific role? And there should be a poll that pops. There we go. There's the poll.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. So I have launched that poll now and it should be on your screen. So please feel free to respond. And if for any reason it's not on the screen, feel free to put your response in the chat. So we've got most people have done it, a couple left. So just give it a couple more seconds. One more person left to do it. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to end that poll and just share the results on the screen now. So you should be able to see them.
Marvelous. Thank you, Steph. Yeah, a nice little mix of kind of duties and that sort of thing here. So that's really nice. Yeah, it really does show. And a lot of this throughout tonight will kind of show the uniqueness, I think, of each rugby club and kind of leaning into that. So that looks great. Thank you. Awesome. Let me click that. Goodbye. Awesome. So this first section, all around kind of that strategy. So kind of thinking about who your audience are, what is it that your brand, your rugby club kind of wants to stand for in the kind of marketing that it's doing. Which leads us to poll number 2. When it comes to your marketing priority or your kind of commercial priority when it comes to your club, are you what's the kind of your biggest priority? Are you kind of focused on ticket sales? Is that a really big thing? Are you just one of those clubs who just needs more first team players? Do you have a kind of real mission to grow newer teams? So whether that's women's teams, youth teams, touch rugby, walking rugby, anything like that. Or just kind of broader visibility in your community. Yeah, keen to know kind of what's your biggest priority when it comes to marketing your club.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. And that should be on everybody's screen now to answer. Awesome. And again, any problems, just pop it in the chat. Majority of people have answered. Just give it a couple more seconds to let the last few respond. Brilliant. Okay. I am sharing that now.
Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah. So we've got 4 out of 11. Yeah, growing newer teams, which is really, really interesting. Visibility in the community, again, like quite a substantial one too, which is really interesting. Yeah, we're definitely seeing that kind of that push for newer teams, kind of taking more and more to the fore. Ollie Brewer is also saying just to grow social media reach. Yeah, that's a really good point, Ollie. I think a key thing is like where we're growing the social media reach, I guess, and kind of who it is what we want to be seeing our social media posts and that sort of thing, which kind of leads us very nicely to this one as well. So who is it that you are looking to speak to when it comes to your social channels? Or not necessarily your social channels, your kind of marketing as a whole? Yeah, so we've got, do you want to be speaking to ticket buying fans, or actually that's a slightly different poll, isn't it? That one. Let me do. Oh, I didn't load that poll. I do apologize. Keen just to pop it in the chat. Which of those kind of um those audiences ideally that you kind of want to be speaking to? If you want to do all of them, that's cool. If you're like, oh yeah, A, C, D, and E, but not B, or that sort of thing, do just pop it in chat. That would be great. Apologies, Steph, I kind of missed one off there, didn't I?
It's okay, no worries. I was going to blame myself then, Phil.
Awesome. Yeah, people in the community, ticket buying fans from Ollie, Steve going for everyone except for the ticket buying fans, and players and that sort of thing. Awesome. That's great. And I think the purpose of this is to really think about it just gets you start thinking about, okay, the different people that we want to be speaking to, which then informs the different marketing activity that we want to be doing as a club. And you can kind of really focus and hone down on that. And one thing that we're kind of working with clubs to do is kind of really thinking in a bit more detail of like who your target audiences are. So one of the things that we're kind of looking at is kind of getting them to think about a few different elements of those target audiences, all of which allows you to kind of start thinking about, yeah, who they are, and then what's the marketing activity that we could be doing to be speaking to them more relevantly and that sort of thing. So kind of broad demographics, that sort of thing. Yeah, so like roughly like of the people you want to speak to, what their rough age tends to be, their gender, their job, geographic information. Doesn't have to be all of those, but like anything that kind of sets them apart, that makes you think, yeah, that's the kind of person that we want to be speaking to. The relationship with the club. So what it is that kind of you want to be there for them about, how they contribute commercially and that sort of thing. So whatever it is that kind of means value for your club. Value obviously is incredibly subjective for each club. We've had some people talking about ticket sales, some people saying I want to do everything apart from ticket sales because we don't sell tickets and that sort of thing. So yeah, kind of smaller clubs where you're not thinking about the ticket sales, these people will still drive value in kind of other ways. So I don't know whether that's in the club bar or volunteering or raising money as part of a race night. So yeah, whatever it might be, there's always ways that kind of your target audiences will contribute to your club commercially. And then basically once you've kind of looked at all that, you can then think, okay, what are the different kind of marketing channels that will be relevant to these people? What is the kind of activity that we could start doing that would get in front of them? Yeah, that's kind of when you start to kind of separate out your different audiences, those kind of the answers kind of start to reveal themselves quite nicely, which is yeah, pretty helpful. Like I said, so it really helps to kind of guide that decision making and that sort of thing. I've dreamed up 5 kind of specific target audiences that are kind of a smallish rugby club might have, given them random names just to kind of make them a bit more understandable. So you've got like the likes of Luke, who's your kind of your stereotypical local fan. He's there more often than he is not, and he's also spending quite a lot of money in the club bar. You've got the likes of Joanne. So Joanne is really important from a sponsorship perspective. So yeah, kind of trying to find those local business owners in the local area who they want to drive more awareness of their business and that sort of thing. So that is someone that many rugby clubs will be wanting to speak to. Or you could have your rugby mad university students who's kind of come across the country to near you, just loves rugby and always wants to watch a match every Saturday or Sunday. Plays it in the meantime as well, so could also be looking for a new club as well. That's Ayub. Rachel is a kind of not particularly a rugby audience per se, but she lives locally and she's thinking about where she's going to get married in 18 months time or 2 years time. So she'll be kind of looking for things around that. So again, that's another kind of audience that you could be thinking about if your facilities are kind of something that you want to push as a business. Then you've got Martin. Martin's a slightly more sporadic fan and that sort of thing, but he's also got the kids who are interested in playing rugby as well. So all these different people are, I've obviously made them up, but they're all kind of symptomatic of the different types of people that we've spoken about, like with the various rugby clubs that we've chatted through over the last 6 months or so. And like I say, what's really interesting about these is that they can need different channels and different tactics to speak to them in different ways, because they'll do different things. They're different types of people. They communicate in different ways and that sort of thing. So just to kind of show for this slide as well, you can then think, okay, based on who these people are and kind of what they're likely to be doing, they're probably going to be needing different kind of tactics, different kind of channels to be appearing to them, so that sort of thing. So you see kind of social media activity is quite a key thing here for like a lot of these ones, in terms of just kind of driving that awareness in the local area and kind of letting them know how the team's getting on and that sort of thing. But also you'll know that people like Luke, who's there at matches quite a lot, you know that any advertising or kind of stuff that you put up in the club bar, he's going to be seeing that and that sort of thing. Joanne could be one of those where if you're sending out press releases to your local press, to all the local radio stations or anything like that, that might be how she hears about your club and hears about the different things that you're doing with other businesses in the community. Ayub might know that you exist, or he might not. He might just know that there's lots of other clubs around in the regions. So that could be someone that you could create some digital ads for. So little adverts on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or wherever it might be, to find that kind of specific demographic who might be looking to come along to a game or might be looking for a new club to play for. So kind of launching those ads. The good thing about digital ads, I always find you don't have to spend a lot of money to kind of get relevant people seeing what you're doing. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It can be quite a nice way to do that. Likewise, Ayub, if he kind of doesn't know anyone at the club, he'll be going on your website to kind of find out what's going on and when the matches are and whether you want players and that sort of thing. So kind of keeping that website up to date is really good. Rachel, really interesting as well. She'll probably be the one who's searching things like wedding venues in whatever town she lives in, and kind of seeing what shows up there. So if you've got a quality page on your website that's talking about your wedding venue and it's got really nice pictures and kind of nicely describes the facilities and all those sorts of things, that could be one of the ways that you show up to her as well as the kind of more standard social media activity. And then Martin, again, kind of social media activity, press releases, that sort of thing. These are kind of relatively approximate, like I say, but it is just a way of kind of showing, okay, there's different channels, different ways of kind of speaking to different people, all of whom will have a lot of value for this imaginary rugby club that I've made up. And that's the kind of audience side of things. But then there's also kind of the questions for kind of your club as a brand and kind of how you want to speak and the kind of club that you want to be and that sort of thing. Within the resources that we've created with the RFU, we've created a social media toolkit, which is basically a place where you can kind of plan out your strategy and kind of the things that you want to do, how you want to approach your social media. One of the tabs within that is what we call our tone of voice axis. So kind of establishing, okay, how is it that our club wants to speak? Do we want to speak really formally or really casually? Do you want to speak quite simplistically or quite detailed? Kind of essentially you can map where you want your club to be on this relatively simplistic axis. So basically in the four corners here, I've imagined a glorious 60th minute try for old Rubberduckians. Unfortunately, they don't exist, which is a crying shame, really, isn't it? But basically, so I've kind of described this try. It's the same try in all the four things, but it's just written in a different way. So it's kind of thinking about your club. What is it? What kind of language suits our club best? Always a kind of really good thing to think about and play with and kind of chat to your team and everything like that. And yeah, kind of when you're thinking about what your tone of voice should be as a business, there's a few kind of different questions to think of. It's like thinking, okay, of our readers that we're thinking about, are they likely to be the people who really, really love their rugby, who kind of really get it inside out? So like, will all the rugby jargon, will that perplex them, or will that make them think, yeah, this team are really speaking my language? That's great. Are they the sorts of people who kind of like things short and snappy, or do they like things that are a bit more in depth and that sort of thing? And likewise, just kind of what kind of club do we want to be? Got two really nice examples here. So you've got Coventry Rugby up the top, with a caption for one of their posts, just saying kind of nice and simply with a couple of emojis, grind doesn't stop, and kind of that's it. Which is great. But then kind of down at the bottom as well, you've got a club called Old Colfians, who are kind of Surrey based. And one of the things that's really good about Old Colfians is they've got quite an in-depth, quite a sort of complex tone of voice. Basically, every post that they do has a relatively detailed few paragraphs about the last match that they've done and that sort of thing. It's all very well written and very engaging and very wordy and that sort of thing, and it really shows the culture behind the club, and it really conveys that kind of welcoming nature and that as well. Works really well. Also, as a kind of little aside, one of the kind of constant things they do on every match day is the man of the match gets this charming bear. So yeah, basically, at the end of each match, they have a man of the match picture with whoever gets the bear for the week, and then a kind of nice little write up about it as well. So yeah, it really shows the kind of ethos of the club and kind of who they are. If I was a player in that kind of region and I kind of didn't have a club, I would think that's a welcoming club. That's a club who kind of knows what it's about. That's a club who doesn't take itself too seriously. All these sorts of things. They kind of know who they are essentially, which is a really nice example. So there's no right or wrong way. You can be really, really abrupt and to the point and that sort of thing. You can be really technical or cold or whatever it might be. It's just kind of working out what works for your club, what you think your audience will love, and yeah, that consistency from there. Loads of different verbs and things here, so I won't go through them all here. But what's always really good, so I've spoken to dozens of clubs in the last kind of 6 months or so, and what I find really interesting and really kind of inspiring almost is the fact that every club is really, really unique. Every club kind of has a different kind of ethos. Obviously hundreds and hundreds of clubs around the country, but they're all kind of slightly different in their own unique way. So it's always really good when you're kind of planning out your marketing, when you're kind of setting your strategy and thinking, okay, what is it that's unique about your club? Are you a really kind of family centric club? Are you kind of more around the kind of the fact that you're a pathway for rugby talent? You've kind of got bigger clubs nearby, and you've got a history of kind of young lads and girls going to bigger things through your club. Are you affiliated to a company or a university, to a local business? Are you do you have a kind of a rich history? Like, do you have a history of success and kind of lots of past people who've made it? Or are you a new club? Are you really light-hearted? Are you more kind of older, traditional, and that sort of thing? Like I say, I won't go through all of these, but thinking about what makes your club is a really kind of core and central part to both your social media, but also your kind of wider marketing activity as well. So I would encourage you to kind of have a think about that and kind of think, okay, what is it that makes us who we are? And do we kind of convey that on our website, on our social channels, in anything that we say to local press, in any ads we do, whatever it might be? Are we kind of conveying that as well as we can? Awesome, which kind of leads us to the social media side of things. So yeah, we'll kind of be chatting through some tips and that for that side of things, with a kind of few nice examples dotted throughout of clubs who are doing it really well. A few kind of stats on kind of rugby fans on social. So one of the resources that we created alongside the RFU was a thing around kind of rugby audiences. So using some audience software that we have at our agency, we could kind of analyze who kind of rugby fans were specifically, who they kind of tended to be, and that sort of thing. We found that more than 9 in 10 are using at least one social network. More than a third use more than 5. 63%, so well more than half, are using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok more than once a day. So this slide essentially is just to show that it is really big deal. It's kind of stating the obvious, I guess, but yeah, like whether it's for rugby fans or the general populace, yeah, rugby fans are very much on social media, and it's a really great channel to talk about your club and the great things that are happening at your club. Another poll. I think this one definitely is in here this time. What's your club's top social channel? What do you kind of get? And where top's a bit subjective, but like, where do you have maybe the most followers or the most engagement on? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter, TikTok? Anything else like if it's like LinkedIn or I don't know, Reddit or Pinterest or anywhere else, pop it in the comments. But yeah, always keen to find out.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. That should be on your screens now. Just over half have filled it in. Give it a couple of seconds for the final few, and then I will stop the poll and share it with you. Last couple of seconds for people to respond. And I will share the results. It's a tie.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, that's pretty comprehensive, isn't it? So yeah, that does tally very, very closely with kind of what we see with a variety of clubs. That kind of dominance of Facebook and Instagram as the kind of as the top two. Yeah, which is really interesting. But yeah, they're definitely the top two and ones we speak to. Twitter kind of used to be, but obviously there's a few things going on with that channel at the moment that are making it quite interesting. Oh, not interesting in a good way. And yeah, TikTok as well. Yet to take off, but I know there are some clubs who are kind of doing it quite well, particularly if you're kind of wanting to speak to younger audiences. Yeah, which kind of leads me to this slide quite nicely, actually. So again, when we were looking at the rugby audience, using our kind of software that we have, we could basically ask them, okay, what's your favorite social media channel? Is it Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter? And then we could map based on their age what they were likely to say, basically. And what you can see here is basically for anyone north of 35, on average, more people will be on Facebook than anything else in terms of their favorite channel. So yeah, pretty dominant from that perspective. But that's definitely not the case when it comes to younger people. So kind of teenagers and early 20-somethings. Instagram, massively more popular. TikTok, the actually most popular with that cohort. Even Snapchat, more important or more popular than Facebook. So yeah, it really does show kind of, again, Facebook's kind of growing for that kind of 25 to 34, but still by no means top. Instagram kind of top in that regard too. So this is a really good way of showing that how the generations really do differ in terms of the different platforms that they use. You'll probably have a very good inkling of this, whether it's kind of consciously or otherwise, of the kind of people that follow you on these channels. But we spoke about who you want to be speaking to earlier. If it is youth teams or if it is younger girls teams or that sort of thing, youth teams, potentially there's kind of the opportunity to use Instagram or TikTok to speak a bit more relevantly to that demographic. And then this interesting, we get research as well, which is all about the kind of what people are looking for on these different channels. So basically they were asked, where do you go to find entertaining content, or to follow brands, or to keep up with news, or to message friends and family, or to share photos and videos? And what's really interesting about this graph, and where it's quite a lot of color and blocks, what is really interesting about this is that their each channel, people go on it to do something else, kind of in terms of the majority. So Facebook, as a kind of majority, the majority of people go on Facebook to message friends and family. The majority of people go on Instagram to share photos and videos. Majority of people go on TikTok to find entertaining content, like turning on essentially like you turn on a telly 20 years ago. People go on X/Twitter to keep up with news. So this just kind of shows that people very subconsciously, like when they're going onto these platforms, they're looking to do different things. And so it's kind of important that our content flex that as well and go from there. And also that does explain, like, most rugby clubs, or say I'd probably say the majority that we speak to, their biggest audiences are on Facebook, but often they don't get quite the engagement there that they do on other channels. And that's because a lot of people will follow them on Facebook, but they're not always looking to find out what the rugby club's doing. They're just looking to kind of see what their family are up to, or message their friends, or that sort of thing. Instagram, yeah, it tends to be a bit more centered around kind of sharing photos or videos and seeing other people's photos too. So yeah, that's kind of can be a bit more rugby club centric. Awesome, thank you, Barry. That's lovely feedback. Yeah, so like just to show, like you kind of want to do slightly different things on different channels, but kind of X still keeping up with news in terms of what people are looking to do. News obviously for rugby clubs is what's going on in the match. So if you've got the capacity to kind of do match day tweets and that sort of thing, and game day tweets, to the minute updates of tries and scores and all that sort of stuff, Twitter/X is still a really good channel to be doing that, because we know there are people on there who'll be following you, who'll be thinking, how are they getting on at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon? And I won't spend loads of time talking about kind of algorithms and kind of what how kind of social channels work and that sort of thing, partly because I've only got an hour and partly because I don't want to bore you to death. But it's kind of three kind of core things that today social channels are looking for when you post something. They're kind of looking at this post and looking at your account to kind of understand how many people should be seeing this post. A really big factor is who is in the post. So whether it's someone that lots of people know and that sort of thing. So ideally, we should always kind of try and tag different club people in our content, and kind of thinking, okay, who are the different people at our club that we can that other people know that we can come make part of our content that we're creating. Obviously, a very obvious example would be the players that you have at your club. But it doesn't just have to be them. It can be fans, it can be employees and volunteers, partner businesses, anyone like that. And what's the great thing about involving other people in is that if you tag them, they can then share it to anyone that follows them and that sort of stuff. They can put it in their stories, or they can share it and that sort of thing. So that just gets your content out to more people as a result. And yeah, kind of whether it looks good kind of sounds quite subjective and shallow, but it is really important. Like, people pay a lot more attention to posts that look good and that are just easy to understand and read and that sort of thing. So kind of making sure we're planning content in advance is really, really important. Using hashtags that are relevant to either your rugby club or the kind of local community. But yeah, very importantly, making sure that all of the content that you're creating looks good, is kind of a good high quality kind of written word perspective, like we spoke earlier, and is unique as well. So that's really key. But then a really big part of kind of what social channels are looking for is kind of how well people are reacting to different bits of content. So basically, if you create a post that loads of people are going to engage with, that will then get seen by more people than if you post something that nobody clicks on, nobody likes, nobody engages with. It's kind of relatively simple way of saying it, but yeah, that's how it works. So that should always motivate us to create content that people are going to connect with, that they are going to like, share, or comment, that it kind of does something for them, essentially. So yeah, talking about things that your followers enjoy in a way that they understand. But yeah, when it comes to kind of challenge side of things, what is it that you kind of struggle with when it comes to social media? Again, if I've not put something here, just pop it in the comments. Any struggles that you get.
Thanks, Phil. That should be on the screen now for everybody to answer. So we're just getting a few results coming in. Just over half have answered. Give it a couple of seconds for the final few to respond, and then I will end the poll and share the results.
Awesome.
Couple more seconds. Brilliant. I am going to share the results now.
Love it. Thank you very much. Really nice mix there, or a nice mix of frustrations. Yeah, the volunteers to do it is always a tough thing and that sort of thing. Got a couple of ideas for that kind of coming up, so hopefully that helps. Yeah, the consistency, the internal capacity, definitely get that. Kind of creating that content and that sort of thing. And then yeah, getting more people seeing the content as well is a core thing as well. So yeah, hopefully there'll be little things coming up for there. And also in the resources that we've created, there's other elements as well that can help with all of that too. Don't know if there are any other clubs that you kind of look at on social channels, big or small, that you think that you particularly enjoy or anything like that. I'm not sure if any spring to mind. I'm always keen on these things to kind of find out what people are liking and that sort of thing. Are there any other clubs out there that you particularly like seeing updates and stuff from? I like this section because it allows me to take a nice big gulp of water. But if anyone doesn't have anyone, that's fine. We'll crack on. Worthing. Okay, that's cool, Nigel. I've not I don't think I've seen what Worthing are doing actually. I'll have to take a look at that.
Their president's very good on Facebook, and he's an old friend.
Oh, that's good. What does he do? And what does he do specifically?
Well, he posts up. They have a on Facebook. They post up their announcement of what's happening the following Saturday, whether it's home or away, and they'll put the team up, and then they put the program up as well. All on
awesome.
Facebook. Yeah,
that sounds great.
Yeah,
oh, nice one. Yeah, I'll take a look at them and Tigers Media as well. Thank you, Ollie. Yeah, I'll take a little look at those as well. That sounds great. Amazing. Yeah, I guess this was a question in a sec as well. In the previous one as well, finding it hard to recruit the kind of marketing volunteers. Is that something that you find is hard? Is it kind of absolutely fine, or do you find it hard to hold on to them?
Thanks, Phil. I think we've got a good idea of what people are going to respond to this, but it is on the screen now if people want to answer it. Brilliant. Okay, I think everybody has responded, so I will share the results, and I don't think anyone will be particularly surprised.
No surprises there. I guess there's a surprise that there's one though, but yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so hopefully some of this kind of does help with the kind of the recruitment side of things, I guess. I do often think if you've got a plan in place and the kind of strategy in place of kind of what you want to do, then kind of getting the word out there for who you're looking for and what you're looking for them to do. It's not always ideal, but it's easier to kind of find the right people if you've got the plan. You can kind of say exactly what you want to do. And one thing that we kind of speak to rugby clubs about that does kind of help with this is what we call content pillars. Appreciate it's quite a marketing-y term, but if you bear with me, yeah, content pillars are basically different themes that a rugby club will post about on a kind of on any given month or week or that sort of thing. So we've got this little section here, just a kind of a cut of a grid from Plymouth Albion. And you can basically see from their kind of grid, they've got different types of content they're talking about. It's not just kind of match day content. They've also got one of their posts around one of their games that they won, but then they've also got a sponsorship post. They've also got a post about an upcoming match. They've got a post about what's happening in the community, and a kind of just a player post without any kind of promotional aspect as well. So what's really nice about this, and your club probably will do this subconsciously or otherwise, but they've got an idea of the different kinds of content that they want to be producing. And very importantly, anyone who follows you isn't just seeing the same thing every day or the same thing every week. There is a variety of content. And obviously, like we saw earlier, when you want to be speaking to different audiences, when there are different things that you want different people to be doing around your rugby club, you need that variety to make sure that you're speaking to those relevant people in the right way. And yeah, like Steph said, there is a link there to kind of help with that kind of volunteer side of things. Just got a question from Barry. I think it's quite a good question, so I'll just go into it now. We have a plan and role spec ready. Following these slides, which social media is best to get the right people to potentially get involved? I would basically say there wouldn't be one channel that you would focus on. I think any channels that you have visibility on, you have people following you, I think get that message out there on those. And I think the more specific and the more fun that you can make it sound, then the better. I think the fun element is a really important kind of aspect. We're all volunteers, or well, most are volunteers at rugby clubs, so that fun element is really central. So I think if you can kind of convey that fun and the kind of the emotional benefits that you get from it, I think getting it out on various channels is a great way to do that. So yeah, we spoke very near the start about like your kind of club goals, and we always think that your content pillars should reflect your different club goals. So whether you're trying to get more players, get more money in from social side of things, sell more tickets, just be there in the community, just kind of clarifying that and kind of doubling down on that really allows you to kind of say, okay, we need to set aside X number of posts every month for this to kind of show that we're about this as a club. We need X number of posts about our youth rugby a month because that's what we want to be as a rugby club, that sort of thing. So kind of here on the kind of right, we've got 4 kind of classic pillars, I guess, that we see with a lot of clubs of kind of having posts about the match day experience, whether that's lineups or match updates or highlights or team sheets, anything like that around the kind of match day experience. You've got behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, all the stuff that goes on in training, kind of getting to know the players a little bit more. Youth rugby. So yeah, kind of showing what's happening kind of with the youth facilities and with your youth teams and kind of showing that about your club as well. And as well, having posts kind of talking about things that you want to promote commercially, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's your facilities, whatever it might be. And obviously, you wouldn't want to do the same amount of kind of salesy posts as you would match day content. That's completely normal. So it's just a case of kind of working out, okay, these are our broad content pillars. How much of these are we going to be able to do a month? What fits our capacity? Like, what can we commit to as a team? You don't want to overcommit. You don't want to stress people out. You can just say, okay, we want to do these kind of posts every month. Is that reasonable? Is that ambitious? Is that something that we can do as a club? And we spoke about volunteers as well. What I find quite helpful about content pillars is that you can get different volunteers for each one. So if you've got kind of someone in charge of the youth rugby or a particular coach in the youth rugby, you could say, we'd like 5 posts a month about our youth rugby. Can you be the one person who leads on that at the club? Here are the logins, here are the design templates, go for it, basically. And then you can kind of have control of that, but there's someone else kind of putting in the minutes or the hours to create those posts and that sort of thing. Likewise, behind the scenes, you could have a player that you say, we want to have 4 posts from you a month about what it's like at training, or what it's like on the team bus, or whatever it might be. Hopefully it'll be appropriate if it was on the team bus, but yeah, just a little idea of kind of how to separate things out, essentially. And when you're kind of thinking up posts, always kind of good to think about like kind of these key questions. Social media essentially is about kind of educating people, entertaining them, and hopefully inspiring them as well. So kind of 3 core questions to think about. Okay, what would you like people to know about your club? Whether that's kind of obvious things like match days and team sheets and that sort of thing, but also like, yeah, what's the history of your club? What do you think will be great things that people should know about what's going on in your club? Entertaining, who is there at your club that can make other people laugh? Is there anything kind of amusing or kind of funny that can kind of make people laugh and that sort of thing? And inspiring, like how can people at your club create content that help people? How can you kind of inspire them and go from there? Generally, if you invoke an emotional reaction from someone when they read your content, they're going to be interacting with it, they're going to be engaging with it. That's the real good stuff that gets people following and engaging and going from there and kind of building that relationship. As I take another gulp of water, does anyone have any questions at this stage before we go on to the last however many slides? Awesome. I will take that silence as golden as I've swallowed the water. There might be some which I'll look through at the end. That's good. We spoke about the kind of templates and design side of things just now as well. But yeah, that kind of consistency of your social media design is really, really key in terms of kind of conveying that that quality and that kind of community around the club and looking professional. And yeah, if it looks professional, people are going to engage with it more. This is a really nice Instagram account from a club called Hull Roundheads, who are yeah, obviously based in Hull, and they have kind of very strong links to the LGBTQ plus community up there. So yeah, so like they've got a really clear identity of kind of who they are and what they stand for and that sort of thing, which is really great. But also kind of just as crucially, like their posts look really good as well. They've got a clear idea of kind of what the fonts are that they're using in every post, what the colors are to use. There's kind of that yellowy one, the red one, kind of the blue, the pink. Very clear idea of set colors that are being used, which looks really, really good. Kind of how they use white space as well. It's all just very consistent basically, and it looks really great. So yeah, it's kind of really nice example of that. So I do think ideally if you can kind of have one person from a kind of social perspective responsible for that kind of overall design and kind of owning the fact that, okay, these are our fonts, these are our brand colors, this is how we use our logo, maybe create a dozen templates, half a dozen templates, something like that, that then other people can kind of use those templates. Canva is a really, really good tool. I don't know, hopefully most of you have heard of Canva. It's quite popular now, but if you haven't, yeah, Canva is a really great tool where basically you can create templates for specific posts. So whether that's like match day posts, match day lineups, or score posts after matches, or meet the team posts that we'll kind of chat through in a sec as well. And you can basically just save them on Canva, and then anyone else can log into Canva from there as well, kind of copy and paste a picture onto that template, write something new using that font that you've given them, and hey presto, you've got a new post that looks like your club, and that looks really professional too. So kind of having that central location is really, really key. We do encourage that. We also kind of, that is something we can use, the social toolkit that's on the RFU site. You can use that as well. If you don't want to use Canva or Photoshop or anything like that, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that there is something central that you can use. We spoke earlier as well about kind of the importance of using people and different people in our social content. So variety of different people that we could be thinking about, whether it's like club people, so players, volunteers, staff, old players as well, anything like that. Any fans or hobbyists or match going fans that you can use too, as well as organizations. So yeah, any partner businesses, whether that's sponsors or anything else, bigger local organizations, local sports clubs, basically all of these people, all of these accounts you can use in your social content. If you create content alongside them, and then they'll share that afterwards, and that will boost your visibility, get your posts seen by more people. And yeah, one of the things that social media is really, really great for is just telling the stories that you have at your club. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of dig into those stories and kind of really find them. But if you've got a way of kind of telling people across the club that you're looking for interesting and kind of heartwarming and inspiring stories and that sort of thing, if you've got anything that's kind of saying about your people at your club, that's the really good stuff. That's the stuff that you want to kind of get on your social channels and go from there. Really nice example here of Trowbridge, so my local club. I had to involve them as my local club, but basically you've got a lad here who'd been playing rugby since the youth teams, who's kind of made it to one of the senior teams, playing alongside one of his old coaches. Just a really, really nice human interest story. And kind of across clubs, across the country, there are these sorts of stories happening all the time, and kind of keeping your ear on the ground and getting hold of these and kind of letting other people know that these are the sorts of things that you're looking for, can be really, really powerful. So yeah, just kind of thinking, what are the human stories happening at your club, or who is there at your club who's got kind of interesting perspectives? Could be groundsmen, could be people in the club bar, could be anyone. You know your club better than anyone else. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't have to be players. It can be the volunteers side of things as well. And I often think with clubs who are looking for more volunteers, one of the really good ways to highlight the fact that you need volunteers is by celebrating the volunteers that you already have. So yeah, I would encourage you to do that if you're kind of looking for more volunteers, kind of telling those stories of the people who do it already, and the value that they get from it and the value that you get from them, just as a way of kind of celebrating them is a really nice way to do things. Yeah, a little example here from Plymouth Albion of this kind of club photographer who's been working with them for years, and yeah, just kind of celebrating them as well. So it's a really good way of kind of showing your club as part of the community, while hopefully getting more volunteers in the future as well. There's also the collaboration side of things, always really, really important. So yeah, there's an example here from Old Road Cliffians in Bristol. What they do quite nicely, and I know a lot of clubs do this, is to kind of have a photographer that they work with. Sometimes it's paid, usually it's just hobbyists, just people who like taking pictures. They'll come down, they'll watch the rugby, they might get a free pint or something, whatever it might be, and then they get the pictures of the match afterwards, which is great. They will tag the photographer, who will then share that doubtless to his community later on in the day. And also you can see they've tagged the players here as well, so you know later on when Grovesy comes into the dressing room and he sees that excellent picture of him, you know that's going to be going on his Instagram stories and kind of getting more people seeing it and that sort of thing. In terms of kind of meeting players as well and kind of getting regular content out there, kind of behind the scenes stuff is really, really good too, as a way to kind of get to know players and that sort of thing. To kind of, well, there's a few reasons why I really like this sort of stuff. The first of which is it allows you to tag players again and they can share it and go from there, like I was saying earlier. but it's also good for a kind of regular flow of content as well. If you're kind of finding it hard to commit to however many posts a week or a month or that sort of thing, if you have I don't know, 40 players across a variety of different teams, you could do meet the team content and do one every fortnight, and that's, you've basically got a nice run of kind of constant content that can kind of go out throughout every fortnight for the next year or two, basically. So it's a really nice way to kind of get that regular flow, while kind of getting people aware of kind of who the different players are and that sort of thing. I know from kind of whether it's watching rugby or watching my local football team, that the kind of player turnover can be quite big, and it does make you think, okay, who's that over there? Who's that? I don't know him yet. So kind of anything that you can do on your social channels to kind of help people get to grips a little bit more with players is a really good way of kind of improving that fan experience. There's the promotional side of things as well. And I think whenever you can kind of use players as part of your promotional posts, that sort of thing. So here they've kind of just got a nice shot of one of the youth teams and basically using it as a way to find new players. Wondering if you should give rugby a try, that sort of thing, making players part of it, showing that kind of nice culture as well, and that sort of thing. And as you can see here as well, we've spoken about hashtags a little bit, but kind of the different hashtags down the bottom that are used here that can help more people see that post. And then the kind of commercial side of things as well. I see this with kind of quite a few teams, which is really great. The fact that when you've got specific sponsors for specific players, it kind of really highlighting that on your social channels. That's a really good way to kind of make your sponsorship packages part of your social channels and that sort of thing. You can kind of build that almost into your sponsorship packs when you're speaking to sponsors and say, well, you will get featured on our social channels a few times a year. We've got X thousands of people following us, that sort of thing. It's just another kind of string to add to your sponsorship bow, which is really good as well. So that's a good thing that Trowbridge again do. So just as a kind of a nice way to round things off in terms of kind of social success, it's the kind of the three things of having that plan, nailing the basics, but also kind of doing what you can to get your brand and your club out there a little bit more. So kind of planning your content out, having those kind of different pillars in mind, having your target personas, so your audiences in mind, so thinking about the different people you want to be speaking to, having copy that sounds like you, that really kind of sounds like your club, having consistent colors and fonts, using white space where you need to, that sort of thing. Anything that kind of makes posts a bit more approachable is great. And then to get your club out there a little bit more, using hashtags, working with other accounts and tagging them and everything like that as well, and making sure that things that you're creating on Instagram, you're kind of using stories to get more people to see them, and stories on Facebook as well, and these sorts of things. So various different things to kind of keep content getting shared across channels and go from there. And that is that essentially, just within the hour, which I'm pretty happy with. I would say one thing that the RFU are currently doing is what's called the governance health check. It's basically something for all the clubs in the rugby pyramid, essentially to kind of fill in where they're at, and kind of see if there are any kind of particular strengths or areas of opportunities for improvement at your specific rugby club. So if you search RFU governance health check, or I think we should be able to pop a link in the messages as well. Basically, this is a little kind of diagnostic, effectively, that you can fill in that health check. Kind of fill in a few different elements about your club and kind of where you're at, and then basically after that, your club may be able to get specific support for kind of different elements. It wouldn't just be marketing, could be other elements like sponsorship or other commercial elements as well. That'll all be based on kind of what you put in that health check. So yes, I would say if possible, please fill in that health check if you haven't already. That will be wonderful. Thank you very much. But yeah, that's the end of the prepared slides anyway. Really good to chat to you all. I'll just enter the chat and just see if there's Nigel says, this is a very good question, Nigel. A charity that I'm involved in has been criticized for using the same content across different channels. Is that a real problem? I wouldn't say, Nigel, it's a serious problem. I don't think anyone's going to get in trouble for it. I don't think you're going to kind of get penalized on social channels or anything like that. But equally, I'd say that's not kind of using the different channels to their maximum effectiveness, essentially. So like I say, one of the slides earlier kind of talking through the demographics of different channels and also what people are looking for on those different channels. Ideally, those should be kind of taken into account when we're kind of creating content on those channels and kind of giving people what they would want to be looking for on those channels. So yeah, so not like a huge problem, but definitely an opportunity to improve things a little bit more. Yeah, hope that helps with that. Awesome. Ollie, can you take a quick look at Nottingham Rugby on Instagram and give me some instant feedback on the look/feel of it? Let me get my phone up. Here we go. Alicia, thank you very much for this. It's been really helpful. Thank you for coming along, Alicia. Nottingham Rugby. We did do Ollie, we did do a bit of work earlier in the year with Nottingham Rugby. I am trying to think of the name of who we were working with now. It's kind of gone off the top of my head now. But basically, one of the things that we did for Nottingham Rugby was a kind of social media audit with some kind of specific examples. So if you want, I can try to think how I would. If you pop me an email, I'll pop and I will send that through to you. But yeah, like we said, we kind of did a few different analysis of the channels and some ideas for that as well. Thank you, David. That sounds great. Yeah, and if ever anyone does have any specific questions afterwards, do just let me know. But in terms of the look and feel of Nottingham Rugby at a glance, Ollie looks great. Looks it's very green, so obviously that's your kind of branding, and that's great. Yeah, I mean from a first glance, looks good. Nice birthday posts. Hopefully. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for popping along this evening. Really glad to see so many of you. And yeah, I'll look forward to speaking to some of you in the future. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.